If you are a married believer trying to navigate this intimacy thing without shame, go ahead and hit that subscribe button because you are in the right place. We have to be able to look at ourselves. And for many of us, that is the hardest thing to do. We are so uncomfortable with our sensuality that we shut it down to the point where we can't even play with our spouses. The more I learned about me, it became a let me learn about me experience. It made him a better husband. I was building my level of confidence with the way that I interacted with him. Initiation. So there are two different sex drives that we have. We either have spontaneous, which you could look at something, you could look at a shoe, and you could be turned on by that. When it comes to a responsive drive, this means that you're very delayed in your response. You have to engage, and then in the process, you become more responsive. That spontaneous drive hit real quick, and then it had my husband questioning like, "Babe, you good?" "Yeah, I'm good. I'm absolutely good." You know what I'm saying? When you have a level of understanding of who you are, something inside you shift. You're no longer feeling like you're not worthy. You're no longer feeling like, what it is that you're doing is not valued.
Welcome to the space where we tell our truth. Testimony, healing, breaking shame loose. Learning our bodies and walking by faith. Intimacy God's way, right here is the place. Sex-Ed for Saints, Mondays at 6. We believe in the power of the story. Not just pain, but redemption and glory. Faith in the rhythm, hearts in the mix, trust in educators. Mondays at 6, we're overcoming by the word of these testimonies. People getting free when we speak what's holy. Healing in our hearts, shame starts to split. Every story told, another chain gets stripped. Learning our bodies, learning His way. Intimacy and faith, walking day by day. This is where we heal, where the truth sticks. Sex-Ed for Saints, Mondays at 6.
What's the lesson we will learn today? What's the lesson we will learn today? What's the lesson we will learn today on Sex Ed for Saints? It's time to party. What's up, beautiful people? It's your girl, Coach Tammy, and I am excited for another episode that we are recording today. Listen, we've been on the Sensuality series where we're talking about the senses and how your body responds to different things. And we've been talking about identity and sexuality and senses, and we've been tapping into a little bit of what senses mean. And I actually thought about an experience today where I back in the day when I was in college, I did a study abroad and we went to Europe. We went to Amsterdam. I spent about a month and a half in Amsterdam, and I spent another month and a half in Germany. And I remember, during that time, of course, you're in a different place, you're in a different environment, and you're amongst a lot of people. And so we would decide to go to different restaurants, and we landed at this restaurant, and when we walked in there, I'm telling you, the food, it smelled so good. And, I could not understand the menu. And so, we were in Germany at this point, and, the waiter, he came and he was like, "What do you want?" Like, he was asking me what the meal was that I wanted. And I didn't recognize anything on the menu because it wasn't in English, of course, obviously. I was in a foreign place. And so I was like, just bring me whatever you think is good. And so he did just that. He brought me whatever it was that he thought was good. And when he brought the plate, it was something that I was like, oh my God, like, what is this? It absolutely was something that I would not eat. I didn't even want to eat it because the moment I looked at it, I was like, oh my God, that is definitely not something that I would even try. And so I from that moment, I Googled. I was like, let me go on my phone and begin Googling this menu so that I can get me a real meal. And, he was able to get me something that I found a picture of something that I liked. And I was like, oh, okay, give me this. And it was pretty good. It was a pretty good meal. But the reason why I'm sharing this story is because, from the moment that we walked into that place, what pulled us in was our senses, right? We smelled the food, the surroundings of where we were, we could smell it. And so we were like, oh, let's go eat there, And then as soon as we go in, we're seeing the atmosphere, the ambience was good. And, we're using our body's senses to be able to make a decision in our life, and we're becoming aware of a thing. And that's the whole purpose of me telling y'all that story, because, when it comes to God and the senses and the abilities that he's given to us, he didn't give it to us to just sit down. And we don't just use one at a time. We don't just wake up and be like, oh, I'm just going to use sound today. Like we are engaging with all the senses. That is what multi-sensory experiences are. The more senses that we apply to an experience, the greater transformation that happens, or the longer lasting memory that occurs. We're able to just identify and pinpoint on something when we engage in multi-sensory experiences, because that's what it does. It allows us to be able to engage. This is why that meal at that restaurant, I could remember it. And sometimes when I go certain places and I'll smell something that's similar, it takes me right back there. It takes me to that experience. And that's exactly how senses work. So when we think about it, it's not a sexual thing in the terms of every time I think about sensuality, I want to have sex. It's really just you engaging with the world, and understanding how to show up when you are in it. God's desires for you to be able to do that. Psalms 34:8, it says, taste and see that the Lord is good. These are two senses, right? Taste and see. This is an invitation. God is already putting layers before we even understand what the science behind it. And I absolutely love that. And so let's talk real quick, because, one of the things that I'm working on, y'all, is being good with my time. Yes. And so I want to talk real quickly about, some of the senses. We talked about sound last week. And then we talked about touch a little. We touched on it. We touched a little bit on touch. And the other thing that I want to talk about today is sight, the courage to be seen. Listen, before we can be truly seen by anyone else, we have to be able to look at ourselves. And for many of us, that is the hardest thing to do. It's very difficult to see ourselves sometimes. Why? Because when we look at ourselves, sometimes it makes us uncomfortable. But God designed sight for more than just function. Genesis 2:9, we read this last week, where he said he made the trees that were pleasing to the eye before they were good for food. Listen, God has given us vision to be able to see what looks good. The same way that, not the first dish, but the second dish, it looked more appealing. I had to go and search for something that was appealing. And then I said, oh, I want that. I want to taste that. We begin tasting things with our sight. Before it even gets in our hand, we begin to taste it. One of the most beautiful stories, y'all, I love, as an intimacy and relationship coach. Listen, one of my favorite books is going to be Songs of Solomon. Okay. Songs of Solomon 4:1. Listen, let me tell you something. How beautiful you are, my darling. How beautiful. Listen, the husband right here. I love this passage, because here it is. You have, this Shulamite woman, and she is, well, first of all, her husband, she is almost like, you ever hear like that, my man, like, nah, it was her man. Okay. It was her man. But he has not been shy on telling her how she is making him feel, down to her lips and her, like everything. He is glorifying her. But one of the beauties about, what I love about this book and this chapter is her level of confidence. And if we're thinking about sensuality and your ability to be confident as a sensual being, she does just that. I mean, she embraces it. She doesn't shy away from what it is that he tells her. She embraces it, and she says, no, oh wait, like, come into my garden. She is so excited about the moments that she shares with him, and she takes ownership of that. And I think a lot of times we are so uncomfortable with our sensuality that we shut it down to the point where we can't even play with our spouses. We can't even play. And I think that that's a very tragic thing. Because if we understand how to, embrace our spouses and engage with our senses, listen, sensuality builds confidence. It builds confidence. And we see it here in Songs of Solomon. Listen, she's not shy. She doesn't deflect. She doesn't say, oh my God, stop it. This is too much. She receives what it is that he says, because she's not passive. Like she's very direct. And that and you can tell in her tone that this is the level of confidence that she carries. Yes, this is the way that she walks in confidence. And it's almost like you can tell the difference of a confident woman versus somebody who's still struggling with some level of insecurities that they have. And if I could ever say, the level of confidence that I'm able to measure, it would be that of the Shulamite woman, because she knows what it is that she brings into the room. She knows herself. She knows exactly who she is, and she knows the work that needs to be put in order to be able to get there. And when we realize the levels of knowing ourselves and being able to have that level of awareness, we don't just have better marriages. We have better overall everything. And I could tell you, when it comes to my own personal experience, I didn't walk into my marriage with that level of confidence. Even though I was in a space where I was getting to understand sensuality and sexuality and all the things, it was still a process of learning. And the more I learned, let me say that the more that I learned, the more I learned about me. It became a let me learn about me experience that shifted the way that I operated. It shifted how I showed up for my husband. And it actually made him a better husband. Not because he was doing anything different, because I was changing my perception about the things that he did. And also, I was building my level of confidence with the way that I interacted with him. And one of the ways that showed up was initiation. Prior to me coming into this knowledge and this revelation and understanding, I can tell you, there are two different sex drives that we have. We either have spontaneous, which you could look at something, you could look at a shoe, and you could be turned on by that. Okay. The way that somebody is walking, you could be turned on by your spouse because of the way that he is walking, or your spouse, vice versa. But when it comes to a responsive drive, this means that you're very delayed in your response. You have to engage, and then in the process, you become more responsive. And so the longer you're with somebody, the greater the window is for you to be delayed in that response and wanting to engage with your spouse. And I was more of a responsive drive. But when I started coming to myself and when I began to come into my sensuality and started really bringing that level of awareness to myself, let me tell you how things had shifted. That spontaneous drive hit real quick. And then it had my husband questioning, like, babe, you good? Yeah, I'm good. I'm absolutely good. You know what I'm saying? Because when you have a level of understanding of who you are, something inside you shift. You're no longer feeling like you're not worthy. You're no longer feeling like, what it is that you're doing is not valued and not important. Because now you're able to address these things. You're able to address your discomforts. You're able to, understand where you are and be able to grow and embrace in that. And that is what understanding yourself actually does. It allows you to, see the bigger picture for everything, essentially, as opposed to, we can't get past this thing right now, right? You now know how to position yourself better when you have a level of awareness, and it all begins with senses. I'm not saying it ends there, but this is where the story begins. This is where healing begins. This is where you are able to sit with yourself and pretty much know and learn and grow in yourself. And a lot of times we're not doing the work. We're not doing the work to fully understand and embrace who we are. And as a result, we're leaving a lot of things on the table unresolved, and we're moving in society like that. And we're not healing that way. And so I think it's so important, which is why I'm doing the series, is because sensuality it's an important word. And I know, we can't fit everything in the conversation, but let me tell you, when you sit with yourself and you begin learning yourself, your mindset shifts, your body shifts, the way that you show up shifts, everything in you shifts. And the goal is to really know, what is it that I can do to be more connected to myself so that I can now be more connected to others. And if you're not sitting with yourself, then you're sitting in disconnection, and so long. So many people have been walking in that disconnect for way too long. Just sitting there and wondering and questioning things that you can find resolutions for if you would just sit with yourself, and understanding, what that looks like. And every week we've gone through some practical things that we could do to just sit with ourselves. For when it comes to sight, one of the things that I love to recommend, especially to single women, is, doing mirroring exercises, understanding, looking at yourself in the mirror, and just pinpointing, where are your flaws? Like, what is it in the mirror that you are looking at and you don't like? Yes, and pay attention to those things. What is it that you do like? And sit with those for a moment. And so many women don't do that. They don't do that because they don't understand the importance. And I tell you, if you would just take 10, 15 minutes and say, I'm gonna block out this time and just focus on a little bit of me. This section right here. Maybe you'll just look at your foot. I don't know. Start with an area of your body and just notice everything about it. Everything. Because how else will you know? One of the things that I always stress is, especially when it comes to communication, is you can't communicate what you don't understand. You can't communicate what you don't know. And sometimes the reason why we don't know, the reason why we don't understand, is we're not taking the time to do so. And all of everything it is that I've been talking about in this series requires work. It requires work. It doesn't require you just sitting there and just learning the information and not doing anything. And I think that's important for, everybody to understand. Listen, when you are married, you got to do work. When you're single, you got to do work. It doesn't matter what your positioning is. There is a level of work to be done, because especially when you're a single, if you are single and you are wanting to date and be married, then this is the best time for you to get to know yourself. I don't want to say that I wish I had more time with myself, but there were some things that if I had sat with myself for a little while longer, that I would have been able to discover, and it would have helped me to make better decisions within my relationship. I had to learn a lot of things after, and I had to shift a lot of my mindset after I got married. And I'm okay with that, because me and my husband, we're good. But if I had taken the time to just sit with some of the things that made me uncomfortable, then I would have saved him the burden of having to go through some of the things that I put him through. But, I thank God that he has, blessed me with somebody who has, been able to handle me with care, so that as I was transitioning and going through some of the things that I went through, he was able to meet me at my needs. But a lot of times there are some people who don't have that opportunity, and it makes the work that much harder. But let me tell you, if you are putting in the work right now, then you're gonna pick somebody who's gonna meet you at the level with the accountability of work that you have put in. And I want you to understand that, because if you have not done the work, if you're not being intentional, then you're going to pick from the level of what you are operating in. And sometimes it's not going to turn out like Tammy's story. Sometimes you're going to end up with something that is going to make you question God. And you don't want that situation to happen. And so I want you to be fully aware and understand the things that is necessary to know. And I'm not saying that, because you're not going to obviously find out every single thing it is that you need to know about you before you get into a relationship at all. You're not going to be able to find out some things until after you get married. But wouldn't it be great if you were doing the work to find out as much as you can? And so is the person that you're exploring. Like when two people are making some really good decisions because they are putting in the work, imagine what that would look like when you guys are together. Something powerful, something shifts when that happens. So listen, every time you create an intentional scent experience, or every time you create an intentional anything within your relationship, within your singleness, you are learning some things about you that can transfer over to something else. And this is the importance of just sitting with you so that you can learn and so that you could understand. I want you to get some practical ways with, we talked about practical ways that you can engage with your sight, practicing looking at yourself in the mirror, looking at who God has created you to be. If you are married, look at your spouse. Look at your spouse when they are not performing, and just pay attention to what it is that you see in them specifically, and tell each other. You know how you sometimes you see those videos where you're like, man, that dude is in love. He's in love. I watch clips like that all the time, and you can just tell somebody who loves their spouse, the way that they look at them. You ever hear that tone? Like, you ever hear that phrase? Like, oh, the way that he looks at her, I know that they in love, sometimes do that. Like, listen, that you're developing a level of appreciation for your spouse when you do that. And it's something that they admire, that encourages them. I love when my spouse looks at me a particular way. I love when he looks at me a particular way. It inspires me. It inspires me a lot. And so when they do that, it allows them to feel seen. It allows them to feel heard. It allows them to feel valued, and all the things. And I think that all of that is beautiful. That's a beautiful thing. Also, when you are talking about senses, because I'm on smell, in case y'all ain't know. I'm trying not to be all over the place. But no, when we are talking about sense, one of the things that I love about scent, and I didn't mention this earlier, is that the sense of smell is the strongest sense that we have. When you are smelling something or creating a scent, you are actually creating a memory that is lasting. Like, it's one of the strongest ones that it has, because it bypasses the memory system. It goes all the way to the back. It creates, these deep memories. And this is why you can just walk past something and you smell something. We have pheromones and all the things. But having really good scents around you creates really good relationships. Having good sense around you creates really great memories. It takes you back. And so, I think I spoke about in an episode where, I heard a song, and when I heard the song playing, it took me someplace. And scent does the same thing. Like, you can smell something and it creates a memory that is so powerful that it will just take you all the way back. Long lasting memories when it comes to scent. This is why scent is so important. And so creating scents that you admire, that you would love, allows you to associate things with like peace and understanding. Lighting candles. I'm a candle girl. I love candles. Lighting candles is actually helpful, And I think we talked about taste, or we didn't talk about taste. If we didn't talk about taste, we'll talk about it real quick. Taste is one of the boldest, most intimate, most proximate senses of all, because you're dealing with taste. I remember when I was a little girl, I had an aunt, and I love my aunt. She's now passed away. But whenever I used to go to her house, she would give us oatmeal, and I hate oatmeal. I absolutely hate oatmeal. I don't know if I always hated it, but I hated it then. She used to put like a jelly or a jam in it to like sweeten and butter it up. And I remember like, oh my God, I don't want no oatmeal. And she used to make me eat it. And it would make me throw up. Like I would vomit. It was that bad for me. And so now I can't eat oatmeal at all. So even if I was going to like it, I don't like it. And I remember talking to my daughter's doctor when she was growing up, and she would not eat the food that I wanted her to eat. Now my son, they were like, don't force her, because when they get older, they're not gonna want to eat it. And I was a product of that. And so when it came to taste, that was something that was big for me. Every time I see oatmeal, it just tastes bad, even though I haven't tasted it. You ever had something like that happen? Taste gets attached to your experiences, whether it's good, whether it's bad. And nobody ever forgets. Like, I'm never going to forget how bad oatmeal tastes, and this is the same thing within our relationships. Like, the goal is not to erase what your senses remember. The goal is to just begin to like create the memories around it, intentional ones, memories that feel safer, memories that allow you to have access to presence, because the goal and the focus of understanding your body senses is just to be aware of your presence, what you like and what you don't like. My husband is never going to ask me to make a bowl of oatmeal. Yes, because he understands that I hate it. I might make him a bowl, but I wouldn't even know how it tasted because I don't eat it. Like, he's going to get what he get, because usually when you're cooking, for me, I'm tasting food along the way to just make sure that it's seasoned right, make sure it has enough flavor. But I would never do that with oatmeal, because in my mind, I had a bad experience with it. God says, taste and see. And I tasted and I saw that oatmeal was not good. But no, in real talk and in actuality, listen, taste creates full experiences. It creates presence. It creates contact. It creates all of the things. And so that's how God designed us. He designed us to be able to engage in all of the body senses that we have. And I want you all to keep that in mind as you begin exploring in all the things. So some practical ways that you can increase and engage with taste. For those who are single, just take the time to enjoy when you go out. Hang out with friends and go to some really good restaurants, and don't just sit down and eat. Sit down and enjoy. Make sure that you slow down while you're eating. Eat slow. And notice the different flavors that you have, right? Like, notice the way that everything tastes as it savors in your mouth. Like, be intentional about what it is that you are eating and tasting. I'm telling you, it's going to make a difference. Even cooking, as you prepare meals, whether it's for yourself or whether you do it for someone else. There are so many people who enjoy. I love to cook. My kids know that I love to cook. I love cooking. Cooking sometimes is therapy for me. I will cook for myself. I'll cook for my spouse. And I will watch him eat. And so that I'll watch me eat. I'll watch my kids eat. Whenever my kids are picky eaters. They don't really eat much, nothing. They don't really eat much of anything, but I'll watch them eat, like whatever they would eat, I'll watch them do it. But the point is, one of the things that I absolutely love doing is, there was a time when we used to eat dinner together as a family. And a lot of us, we're not doing that anymore. When we are intentional about eating dinner together as a family, that is such a beautiful thing. That is such a beautiful thing. All of this is helping to be more intentional. All of this is creating experiences. All of this is creating closeness with each other, and closeness to ourselves. And when we are more connected about what it is that we like, what it is we don't like, all the things, y'all have heard me say it over and over and over again, that these are the things that are empowering for all of us. Yes. And so the path to knowing who you are, knowing someone else, knowing yourself, is the senses. You're going to hear me say it over and over again. You always start with your senses, and this is how you have living it out. You living out your life through your senses, and it's okay to do so. This is something that God designed. And so I want to just say thank you for tuning into this episode. Just be practical this week. Stand in front of the mirror for 2 minutes and take away the phones and the distractions and all the things, and just allow your body to embrace. Find something visual to do, or light a candle. Take a bath and just, light a candle and lather your skin in whatever, bath gels that you have. Just sit with yourself for a moment, notice something, wear something sweet, wear something different, go and grab something new or something that you can do to embrace. It's so important to be able to spend time with yourself. That's ultimately what the Sensuality series is talking about. Just really understanding how to sit with yourself, how to be with yourself, how to embrace yourself, so that can also transfer into other people. And so I just want to thank you all for tapping in and tuning in to the Sex Ed for Saints podcast. Listen, this is something new that I'm doing, and so I appreciate that you guys are rocking with me. I appreciate that you guys are here. Sorry, y'all, I thought something was on me. I thought it was a spider. When we came into the building today outside, there was a spider, outside, and that got me all over the place. My nerves are on me right now because my senses are aware that there was a spider around, and I'm like, did it make it up here? Because we tried to kill it and it ran. And so my mind is just like, is it here? Is it there? So that's where the jumpiness came from. So I apologize. But listen, right now, what I'm doing right now is new. I'm excited about it, but it is a learning curve. And so y'all just be patient with me as I am learning this process. I'm learning how to do what it is that I'm doing. And I want to be able to do it well. And so y'all stay tuned, support the vision, the mission. Absolutely, there will be sponsorship opportunities. If you have seen the journey and where it is that I'm going, and you understand it, you want to be able to support it, there are sponsorship opportunities that you can absolutely do to support the show, support the message, support where it is that I'm going. And I'm definitely excited to put those together for you, and we'll talk about those on future episodes. But for now, stay connected, stay positive. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. And until next time, I will see you. Bye. Hey, y'all. Thank you so much for listening to today's episode. Now, friends, if this conversation blessed you, do me a favor. Take a moment to leave a review, and subscribe wherever you listen to your podcast, because you already know we need more faith-filled, real conversations like this in the world. And listen, I know you heard a gem today, something that made you pause, something that made you think, something that made you say, woo, this was for me. But friend, it might not be just for you. So go ahead and share this episode with someone who needs to hear it. Send it to a friend, a spouse, a sister in Christ, somebody who's been feeling stuck or silent in this area. Let's spread healing, freedom, and truth, one conversation at a time. And until next time, we're going to get candid, but keep it God. We'll talk to you soon. Bye.